Hello and welcome again to another episode of One Starfish, where our mission is to help the world one person or one starfish at a time. As always, guys, make sure to rate, review, subscribe. That's how we get the word out. I really appreciate all the support. I'm excited for our guest today. Matt and I have known each other for a few years through the Arte group, and this guy is a beast in the AI world, which I don't know much about. But he's been in the e-com space for over a decade. He's sold two companies. Right now, his company is an AI company for content creations for smaller businesses so they can act like larger businesses without breaking the bank.
That's right.
And this guy is a beast. He's just about to compete in a big bodybuilding thing, if I got that right, him and his wife, which is pretty cool. So she's a beastess too, or whatever you want to call it. But welcome to the show, Matt.
Yeah, I appreciate to be here, Angela. Thank you for having me. I didn't know the meaning behind that, but it makes total sense now, and it fits your personality perfectly. The one starfish. I love that. That's a great name for that.
Cool. I love that.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into your story. What got you in the e-com space 10 years ago, Matt?
Oh, um, you know, I got out of, I was an IT degree major. The short story was I got out at pretty much the worst freaking time you possibly could. I'm about to be 40. So if you backtrack, when I got out of college was the Great Recession. IT degrees, not a great space to be in a recession like that. So I had this degree. It was a 5 year degree. All my buddies got jobs at 4 years, and I got out. Nobody's hiring. And I had a girl that I wanted to get married to, and I just moved back in my parents' basement. I'm like, this is never going to happen. So, I was applying to IT jobs. Nobody had any IT jobs. And I started like kind of, well, they use computers, so I could probably get a job, with my IT degree with that, right? So, and eventually I think I was down there for like 6, 7 months and broke. My wife's, or my now wife, my girlfriend at the time, OT degree, so she got hired like that. She's making all this money. I'm like, I'm a loser. Like I'm in my parents' basement. She's making good money. There's a timeline that's gonna divert here, right? And so I just got desperate and I was like, you know what? I can build a website. Maybe I can get into this thing. Ecom back then looked completely different. It took me a lot of years to get. So when I say like 10 plus years, that's the start of me getting my feet wet with it. But I was trying to make some kind of side income and for years, and it really didn't. It took me like several years to actually make a first dollar. We were doing all sorts of different stuff back then, and I ended up getting a job at Anheuser-Busch here in town, and say I'm from St. Louis, and I always had this little itch though. I would come home, and I was like, now I got this job. That's something what I wanted, right? I got a whole bunch of scenarios like that. I'm like, I have all these things that I want, but I'm still like itchy over here. Like I'm still finding my way to my computer trying to build stuff. And then ecom started to kind of evolve into more of what it is today. Like Shopify started coming out, these platforms that simplified things. And so I just kind of started finding my way there, and I ran them in parallel where I would come home literally. Yeah, I had a very demanding job at Anheuser-Busch. I found my way into procurement of all things, and was good at it. I was good at negotiating, and doing the math and all that kind of stuff that you got to do. And I just got itchy, and I was like, I wanted to build this career or this thing outside of my career, I should say, and started making like equal money with it. And then part of me was just like, man, really kind of want to do my own thing. And that was about 10 plus years ago so that timeline, when I was about uh, 28 or so. I was like, babe, I think, we didn't have kids yet. And it's like, maybe this is the time, this is the opportunity, maybe this is the choice. And, she had been advancing in her career. And it was tough because my dad had worked for Anheuser-Busch for 40 some years. He actually was on the Bud Light team when it launched, the brand launched, helped build that. My mother-in-law worked there. I'm a St. Louis guy, so like a lot of St. Louis people can say this, but like my dad worked there, my mother-in-law worked there, my uncle worked there, my oldest brother worked there, my other brother ended up working on there. Is a family business, and I, in large part, felt connected to it because I felt like my dad helped build the company. But when InBev bought it, it became a different company, which is fine. It's just a different company. And my wife and I just prayed about it and came to a realization that like if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it now. And that's the start of my ecom journey is building my own. I had an apparel brand at the time called PK that I had went all in and went from hobby to business at that point.
So that's really cool. So as you went through that, first of all, your wife sounds amazing. She supported you through your mommy's and daddy's basement. That's incredible and still stuck with you. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
I got a whole
Um,
bunch of those of like where I knew she was the one for several different reasons, and that was one of them. Like she was literally like could have gone out and I was borrowing money from her essentially at certain points. I mean, no, I got yeah, she's an amazing woman.
That's awesome. I love
Yeah.
it. So you got into business here, and obviously you just said your dad wasn't an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
Where did the entrepreneurial bug that you wanted to do your own thing when you had this quote career that like a lot of people in your space in St. Louis, especially like that was like the thing to do.
Yeah.
What made you want to quit and go into your own space?
So I think about that a lot. I think my dad wasn't an entrepreneur, but he was an entrepreneur in the
Mm-hmm.
true sense of the word. He innovated a lot. Like I have like Spuds McKenzie, everybody knows who that what that is. Like my dad was on that team, and he was part of that. I have one of the original posters in my garage that they launched with. Right, I have it all framed up over my Corvette. But so I think he had that spirit, but there wasn't the framework there. And I always go back. My dad was a Marine, and I spent most of my life being told what to do. And I feel like I did rebel against that a little bit with the entrepreneurial spirit.
I
But at the
feel
same
that.
time, I'm like, I don't know, because we both listen to Andy. Like I listen to Andy because he yells at me. So it's like, a part of me, I was a football player. Like, I'm like, I kind of respond. I've literally fired trainers that like, if you don't yell at me, man, like, and tell me what to do, like, I'm not gonna stick with you. Like, if you're too gentle, like, I'm here to work. So, um, my grandpa on both sides were both entrepreneurs. It runs deep in my family.
Okay.
My grandpa and my mom's dad was a huge inspiration for me. He actually got me into computers, and I think that's probably where core came from because I understood what he was and what he did and how he ran his business. And he ended up working for Boeing to support his family, but he had a business on the side too. And I think I have this vivid memories of him noticing that I was because he worked on computers and was uh, a repairman essentially before anybody really knew what that was, right? Like think about computers when they came out, like it's a very specialty kind of thing. And he would be breaking them down and over when we were over there and he was babysitting us. And my brother, I have two older brothers, they'd be out playing around and I'd be sitting there just like, all right, what's that do? What's this do? How do I connect this? And by the end of it, like, but as he got older and he stopped doing that, like I was helping him rebuild stuff. And that's really where it sparked I think my engineer mind came from him and him catering that. And then now I'm a marketer, which came from my dad when my dad was marketing. So I feel like I'm a good blend of the two
Hmm.
in that sense. But that entrepreneurial spirit does run deep. My father on both sides, my grandfather on both sides is there, goes back several generations as well. I'm half Armenian, and when they came over here post the genocide, all they could do was run for themselves, right? So that spirit runs very deep inside my family, and I think I try to embrace that. I didn't understand it at first, but that nature I feel like is embedded multi-generational into it, and my dad I give my dad a lot of credit. Like he is an entre and like I hear from people in here from like what the people he worked with and stuff like what he did, and I've seen him do it. He went from Anheuser-Busch to running a place called the White House, which is a retreat for Jesuits here in town, and he blew that place up too with his marketing skills. So I do, he was a
Right.
very entrepreneur, which is essentially the same thing. They actually, I feel like, have a lot of the benefits that we
They
don't.
do. They have a
You
steady
know that
paycheck. Mhm.
yeah, like that. Like you get to have all the fun, and they're like, "All right, see you later." And like, we have that burden that lasts forever. So I think that's where it comes from, though, is that balance of the two. And yes, a little bit of rebellion against being told what to do. I was in the military for 6 months. I got a bad ticker, so they kicked me out. But I do like being told what to do, but then I have that nature of like, nah, I'm gonna do my own thing, right? And
I
try
get
that
that.
as well. So little. Jekyll and Hyde or whatever you want to call it.
I get that. So you got into building your own business, and you quit the job and you came into it.
Yep.
At that point, had you anywhere near matched your income on your side hustle or not even close?
I was actually I was actually making a little bit more by the time I left, which was a good
Okay.
spot. And back to my
Nice.
wife, like, she had the foresight of like I would have these months where it's killer months, right? Like Black Friday or whatever, because I was selling in the apparel space. So like
Right.
I what I didn't have was consistency at that point. I could hit a trend, I could hit a Christmas, but then I'd have down months at that
Right.
point, right? When I was doing the side stuff. And we had this, I have this vivid memory in our little first house that we had together. And she was just like, look, you have my full back and support, but like, I would like to see if you could do this, if you can do this for 6 months and consistent 6 months, then I got, we're on the same page here and let's do it. Because, this life that we're both in income, come home, all that all disrupted, right? Once you leave. And the risk is heavily on her to support
Right.
and do her
And by this
job.
point, do you have kids yet?
No, no,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
no. So we're about when we're having that conversation, probably 26, 27. And I accepted the challenge, and that's one of those things. So I give her credit. Like she's always done that to me. Like very good. I have I have a very scattered brain, as most entrepreneurs do, and she's always been like a very good guiding light of like, here's the direction I think we should head, or the balance that I needed so I could see it. And she gave me that challenge, and I was by the end of by the end of that 6 months, I was doing exceeding my salary, and it felt really good. And we left with a lot more confidence at that point. So yeah, that was very much needed.
I think
In this
really
area.
important for people to notice there because I find that interesting. So a lot of times if someone had challenged someone like she challenged you basically, they would say, my spouse is not supportive, my
Hmm.
parents don't believe in me, my kids don't, whatever it is, someone doesn't believe in me because they call me out and say, you need to make some freaking money for me to believe in you.
Yeah,
And, and people just blanket as like no one believes in them. So if you're listening to this, if your spouse or partner is calling you out, it's not because they don't believe in you. They need you, they need some results. Like it's like saying I'm going to go, win like you're doing right now. You're doing a bodybuilding thing and then
yeah,
you're eating like a bag of Cheetos every night.
yeah,
Well, I'm probably not going to believe you're going to do so well on the whole challenge.
yeah,
So it's not that I don't believe in you. I just don't believe you want it bad enough to
yeah.
really do it. So I just think
That's
that
a
was
really good
really key
point.
for people to notice that you also took it and didn't take it bad and ran with it and proved that you could do it so that you guys could go forward together. So that's really cool. And
That's a really, I mean, I've never really thought about that, but that I think, and I think with that was the framing that she presented it, that statement,
yeah,
because it wasn't like, nah, you can't do this. It was like, I'm on board with you. And I think either way she would have been, right?
yeah,
But the thing that she knew that I needed, not that I wanted to hear, but what I needed to hear was like, I know you can do this, and here's like a rough target. And like you prove it to not only it doesn't prove it to me, it was like prove it to yourself. Because it was it
hmm,
was it was killing me inside, right? I'm walking away from the business. I'm in my perception. I got an Anheuser-Busch thing right in front of me right here. My wife and I's photo is at the brewery, right? And I had this. It's in our nature here in St. Louis, and it's even more in my nature because I felt like my dad had built this company, helped
right,
build this company, and I'm walking away from a family tradition on both sides. Like I
right,
used to work with my mother-in-law. Like she was in the freaking building, and we'd get coffee together,
right.
and my dad had retired. And I think, I needed that strength from her in the moment where I was weak, which is what a good partner is for a relationship. So, yeah, I never thought of it the way you just presented it, but that's 100% accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've seen that and like we hear it on calls and people are always like, my spouse doesn't support. Well, sometimes they just want some proof that you
Yeah.
really want what you say you want
Yeah.
and they can build that together. So that's really cool. So you came full time. You were doing well. You're doing better there than you were full time at your job. So that's Unusual also, by the way. Most people come full time and they're like not doing that well. So that was kind of
Yeah.
cool that you were able to do that. And things were going good. And then you've had a few exits from some companies. Maybe touch on that a little bit about how that's been. And I
Yeah.
know some of the personal stories, so you can even touch on some of that, how that affected you positively or negatively, and what's kind of transpired since then.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for sure. And like at that point where I was making more money, I was also basically 5 years into make 4 years of no money, and then I was making a year of money. Like when I say that, I was making more money. So people
Good,
have
I
to
love the
understand, like,
clarification. Yes.
yeah, no, like I was burning cash for a long time, and if without the AB job, I would have lost my house or something like that too. And there's actually a story in there where I borrowed money, tax money, from my girlfriend at the time, which is the biggest, by the way, gut check I've probably ever had. Is like swallowing all of my pride. My dad, I love him to death, Marine. He said, I asked him for money and he said, no. He's like, no. And the only other person and it didn't dawn on me for loans or anything like that, but I asked my girlfriend, she said, yes. So, um, one of the moments he like knew, right, that that she was the one. So up and down for a long time and the business was
And I'm
growing.
going to add something for anyone
Yeah.
listening, because I think this way sometimes. Do not loan people money all the time just because
Oh God, no.
it
Yeah.
worked. There was something in Matt, and if you know Matt, you can see it, that she saw that knew it was a worthwhile bet.
Yeah.
Most people, it's not. So just gonna put that out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Just because you loan someone money does not mean, or they loan you money, they're the one. They might just be really dumb. So,
Yes.
but this
Yes.
is a different
Great
situation.
caveat.
So just
Yes.
had to caveat that. Go
Yes.
ahead.
Yes. It worked out pretty good for her, I will say.
It
But
did. Yes.
yeah,
She saw
yeah,
something in you, and she
yeah.
was right. She was a
And
good judge of
thankfully,
character.
yeah. Um, so for a couple of years after that, things were going pretty good and the business was growing and I was building the team. Still did, I mean, this is before Arte, before really knowing what's going on. And doing the best I can. I think we had about a team of 20 people at the time and COVID hit. And right before COVID had hit, my wife had, I should back up a little bit that we had our first child, my daughter, Joanna. And we had not had, we had a rough time getting that going. So we wanted to have kids before we were 30. I now have a 5-year-old and I'm turning, or a 6-year-old and I'm turning 40, right? So we had a time delay there. And when COVID hit, my wife she worked at a hospital. She was an OT. She had given birth, got back up to going, and literally COVID hit, and she's going to work like 2 weeks after COVID is now in New York, and the guy dropping, in China and all that stuff was all happening kind of simultaneously. And I had gone to New York because of things going well. Shopify had invited me up to New York as one of these guys that, they're up and coming merchants or whatever. They had this nice little convention for us. It was great. My wife did not want me to go because the only city, I think it was LA and New York at the time, were having people with the thing. I'm like, babe, it's 8 million people or whatever, and there's 20 cases of this thing. Literally on my way home we're in the bar at the airport, is the video of the guy in China who drops dead, right? Or whatever happened in that scenario. And we're all watching this, and I'm sitting there, and it was like, in my head, it plays like a movie, to be honest with you.
Oh my gosh.
And I like, I'm watching it, it's on the TV, I'm looking around, I'm like, holy shit, like this is way more, excuse my French, but like, I'm like, this is way more serious. And like, I gotta get home, I gotta do, like, what's going on? And we come back.
Maybe that's why I didn't freak out as much. I didn't see any TV.
Oh God. Yeah, no, it's like,
That would have
but
scared
like
me.
I like you're meeting eyes with people at the airport, and I'm like, oh my God. And like everybody just kind of shuffles into the plane, and it was very ominous
Wow.
thing. And we get home, and my wife got sick within a week after that. And she had just been recovering, right? I mean, yeah, she's back to work, but still like she's just been back on her feet and everything like that. And she was number 30 in Missouri to get hit. And way before anybody else knew anybody else. Like we were the only person in our neighborhood, we were the only person that any of our friends knew. Anybody in, like nobody knew anybody else. There's 30 in Missouri, the state of Missouri. I know it's not a huge state, but like 3 million people, 30 of them,
Yeah.
right? We got CDC calling us, telling us to lock down. I'm talking to CDC every single day. This is long before the slow the spread. We had a birthday. I think it was her birthday or my birthday or whatever, and like the circle, people driving around in a circle in the cars and stuff like that, and they're all still going out in places. Nobody else is locked down but us, and it was a crazy time. And I didn't take it in very well because my wife got extremely sick, and mentally in my head, I thought I brought it back from New York,
I was
and
going to
she was
say now
sick.
it makes a lot more sense. Yes.
And I thought I brought it back from New York, and I almost killed my wife, who is now the mother of my child.
At this point, you say almost because we know she's alive, but at the time you don't
Well,
know
yeah,
what's
and
going.
but she was in a weakened state, right? So like
Right.
she was alive, right? She was alive, but like
So far.
there was like the CDC's telling me keep the child away from her. Don't go into the same room. Like they're telling me like throw her food across the bed, and she's on the. By the way, I can't even get it. I can't leave the house to like get her Gatorade and stuff like that. So I'm just saying if people would bring me stuff. So one day I walk in, we have a king size bed, and she's on one side, and I touch the other one to like check on her, and the entire bed is wet. And I think in her weakened state, and I also something about like it was brand new, right? She had gotten it from what we ended up figuring out, and she got it from one of her cancer patients that brought it from Chicago, and they came down to see her to get treatment, and they brought it over. And but I took that all and I ingested it all, and I shared that at the last Arte event that you know I was in a weird state, like because of the COVID money and everybody on their phones and lockdown, my business is spiking because I ran ads. So you're on your phone more or you're on your computer more, checking on the news, my ads are in front of you, right? And so my business is booming to a height that I had never seen it before, which is
Wow.
yay. But also at the same time, I'm about to lose everything that I'd ever tried to build
Yeah,
my
your
life
wife's
for.
your everything.
And plus, I don't know if my daughter, who's months old, is gonna get this thing too. And nobody knows what it is. And the things that I know now versus then, totally different state of mind. And I did not take it very well. And I took it all kind of internally. Somewhere along the way, after I kind of slipped into drinking a lot, doing a lot of different stuff that I should not have done. You know, I had a snap in a moment of like I need to get out of this state, and part of that was getting off this company because I had built this thing that had taken off to a level where I couldn't. I like it was crushing more than everything that I ever wanted. At the same time, I'm about to lose everything that I ever wanted. And I couldn't reconcile the two. And I was like, if I have to make a choice, I'm going to make the choice of my wife and my daughter. And so, I was just like, I'll put a number out, see what happens. And somebody took it. And it was a lot of back and forth, but it was a life-changing number that in my head it made no sense that I had this somebody would pay me something like that. And yet where I'm in negotiations with that now. And as somewhere along the line, I can't really remember because all of that time is like very much of a blur. I started listening to Andy, and I think people had started doing 75 hard in response to COVID. And Andy's in St. Louis with me, and I actually have a lot of mutual, like he's the same age as my brother and a couple other people. So we've ran in similar circles for a while. He's a Vianney guy, I'm a CBC guy. There's high school, whatever. And I do remember one thing as a buddy of mine who's now married to my wife's best friend is her cousin. So we're basically family. I'm his son's godfather. He delivered Andy his orange Ford GT. And I took notice of that because I knew that those like they had just brought him back. There's only a handful of them. I'm like, who in the heck in St. Louis is buying a Ford GT? It was Andy. And then I'm like, okay, 75 hard, Andy. I'm listening to the signs. I start listening to the podcast, started doing 75 hard. And I really haven't, since that moment, a couple months later, the thing took way too long to sell. It took, months of back and forth. But I did a full 75 hard, got myself back in shape. because I'd really gained some pounds during that drinking episode, and got myself back into a better shape. We're like trying to time this vacation that was supposed to come after the exit, like months after, and we had bought it, and like you got a discount for like not moving it. Well, it ended up the exit happened on the vacation, which ended up being amazing because we're with a group of friends and we're in not in Cancun, but we're in Cabo. And I have this moment where I'm on a bed checking my bank account, and it's everything that I've, not only that I worked for, but like had just worked through this weird state,
Hmm.
all kind of culminated in that moment of like relief. And my wife's like, she's like, I've never heard you yell like that. Like I got up and like, "Rah!" Like, like a rage of it, I'm like, yeah, I just won a battle. I felt like this huge weight had lifted off my shoulders where I'd worked for something tirelessly for 6 years at that point, and it all culminated into that moment. Um, and that wasn't like the end of the story, as I shared it at Arte, but that was this moment of like, you did this stuff and you worked so hard on things, and it all kind of collided in this really cool second. So yeah, and that from that standpoint, with some back and forth, like I shared, I wasn't prepped for that moment either, which, that's just life, I think, where I wasn't really sure what I was going to do on the other side of that because all I cared about was getting and being with my wife and my daughter versus me spending all this because the company was booming, so I had to spend all the time over here instead of there, and almost losing over here. It was tough. It was a tough spot, but I learned a lot that I've tried to balance the rest of my life after that. To where even where I'm trying to do all this crazy stuff right here, I'm trying to put my priorities in line to where 5:30 I'm off, and I got two little girls now and not one. And that's the life is built around that, as Ed would say, versus the job, right? And the work. So that moment was the real switch that I could never get away from. And here's a cool thing. I never read a book at all before 75 Hard. And I've read the majority of these books. So besides,
Awesome.
I'm working on, there's a chunk of these that I was going to go down a real estate path at one point in time that I'm not going to read. But like, and like right over here, I don't know if you can see it, is the power list. I do that every day. I got a stack of power lists, and that's why I'm, probably never going to leave Arte. I won't leave Arte. It's just because it was such a critical moment in a godsend, really, because Ed's helped me get back to my faith quite a bit, as I've shared, and Andy helps me keep in tune mentally and physically. That I can't. No, there's no dollar sign replacement to that. So yeah, yeah. That's I think the culmination of or an answer to your question. I can't remember exactly, but that's that. That was the life-changing moment. Is that damn COVID? So
I want to
as you
touch on
know,
that a little bit. By
yeah.
the way, if you guys are listening to this, behind them, there's a bunch of books. Check it out on YouTube for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
But because I'm actually curious on this. So your wife is like, you don't know if she's going to live or die or what's actually happening.
Yeah.
You're worried for your daughter, which is both of them are your everything. I mean, that's why you got motivated to do anything was your
Yep.
wife that you wanted to become your wife. Like it's kind of crazy your whole story of how important they are to you, which is really neat. But they're, everything. And then at that point, you started really drinking, you
Yeah.
said. What? Because I've tried to understand this. So what is it that causes someone or cause you, I should say, I don't know, everyone's different, but in a point where there's like no control that you want to even lose more control
Yep.
by drinking? Like, do you remember what the thought process is there? So if anyone's, in that situation, maybe they can figure out why they're drinking when things are tough. Or, if someone's, with someone like that, maybe it gives a little bit more understanding,
I think it's no, I don't know if it applies to everybody. And my
obviously.
dad's a I can touch on this too. My dad's an alcoholic, and
Yeah.
in recovery. He's been in recovery for a long time. But when I ended up realizing how bad I was drinking, I ended up looking down and realizing I was the same age as when he went into when became a full-blown alcoholic, and
Okay.
that like smacked smacked my face way too hard. But I think it becomes an easy way to shift blame
Mm,
and the so that lack of control that you're talking about is very real.
mm,
But if I'm not the one necessarily I'm because what do people do? They go, oh, I was so drunk last night. I did some crazy stuff, right? It's essentially that without needing to say that, right? Like, oh, yeah,
mm.
well, the drinking, if I wasn't drinking, that wouldn't have happened. So it's just like an easy way to give you a
Interesting.
pass of your responsibility onto something else that helps you embrace maybe the internal feeling that you already had, right? You're already out of control. Now that
Yes.
you're out of control in this other way. And in some reality, it does. What do we feel like when we're out of control? We're feeling it's in our mind. You drink, it comes out of your mind and into your physical body more than anything. You're not really thinking deep thoughts when you're
Right.
drinking, but you now shifted blame and you're out of your head into this other thing. And at least that's what it was for me.
That makes
Was
so much sense.
I was like, oh, it was just it was just 4 beers, it was 6 beers, it was 8 beers, it's just whatever. And I was a big dude. And so I always gave myself a pass. I'm like, I drink more than
Right.
everybody else because I'm such, oh, I used to work for Anheuser-Busch, so I could, there's all these excuses that
All
you could
these
make.
stories. Mhm.
Exactly. It's a good way to put it as a story. And I think for anybody listening is that doesn't do anything, but then it ends up multiplying the thing that's out of control because eventually you come to the realization you're out of control mentally and now you're out of control physically. So congratulations, you full circled
Right, but then
the
you don't
state.
feel as out of control because
Yeah,
you're literally out of your mind a
yeah.
little bit. That
We
makes
do
so
it.
much
We
sense.
we
Hmm.
do a justification run on everything. I try not to figure out. Everybody can justify anything, right? And so if you
Right.
give this new mechanism of you're out of control, I'm sorry, if you give your out of control this new mechanism to shift blame, you don't feel so bad about it because all
Hmm.
you're doing is enjoying the tequila because it's been
Hey,
a long
we're
work,
broke, but
you know?
instead of worrying about that, if I'm drinking, um, well, that's the reason I'm broke
Exactly.
or
Yeah.
whatever. And shift the blame from you just are doing it to yourself.
And I get people now that'll be
Wow.
like, "Well, I would be as big as you, but I have XYZ." And it's like, or I don't do steroids, so I'm like, "Well, I don't do steroids either, buddy. Like, I'm a big dude. Like,
You work out.
I've been working out every day for 5 years. You can try that too. Like, and the amount of money that I spend on food and supplements and stuff like that. But it's an easy way for, and I'm not saying that I'm not guilty of it. Even to this
Mhm.
day, you catch yourself doing it, right? You do it like in the micro way, and you do it on the like, oh, if you're out of control at work, that person's not doing their job. I'm like, well, if you're the leader, so that's why I like Arte again, like it can shift your mindset to like realize, well, are you leading them the right way? Because then the blame shifts back on you, and most people want to push away from that.
Mm.
And alcohol is just an easy way of doing that, I think, is just this easy way of saying, oh, I would have done that last night, but, got on a bender, whatever. And it just, you immediately have this excuse and justification. If you didn't have the booze, you wouldn't have been able to do it. Otherwise, you'd have to own it. And that's really, I think, the cusp of my problem. I'm sure, I don't know if that's the same way for everybody else, but I think that is totally a way people do it.
I think that makes
I've seen
sense
it from
for a
other
lot of
people.
people.
Yeah.
Hmm. Wow. And then, yeah, just trying to get out of the blame. I love, oh, when you said that, I'm like, wonder when I do that. So, and I could see, I don't drink, but I could see why if I did drink, I'd be like, well, that's a reason I'm just not as good or whatever. I
Right.
could see that as being a nice little handy crutch.
Yep.
And everyone uses different ones. I know one that personally I try to fight through is like not using my health as an excuse. Either. So it's easy to find things that you use as your excuse, I think.
Right.
And so I could see it drinking, besides it being addicting,
Yeah.
also being that too for many people. But kudos to you. So now we're doing 75 hard and building new companies. Your wife is doing it with you,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
Oh,
Pretty soon you're gonna have your kids out there doing it with you. They probably do already, actually. They just don't know what they're doing yet.
yeah.
They're just doing
Yeah.
the things, which is an amazing example that you guys are setting. I know we could go forever. Keep an eye on the time. I
Yeah.
always have three final questions before we wrap up, and then anything we didn't touch on that you think would be really impactful for our listeners, whether it's about personal or whether it's actually about AI, which we didn't touch on a lot, but I
Yeah.
love your personal story.
Um,
Um, First and final question is if someone's looking for their purpose, what's one sentence you could say that could help them find it?
um, you don't have to have it right now.
Hmm.
I think that was a revelation that I got along the way is that I think it's one of those things you look at and you expect the final result instead of understanding it's a journey that frankly, like I think there's not me, but like plenty of it people in the world who, you hear stories of entrepreneurs who figure out what they're doing at 70 or something, right? Or somebody who makes some kind of life change. My dad's a perfect example to circle back to him. I think he wasn't meant to be a Bud Light guy, right? And selling beer. I think what he did over the last 5 years after he retired from the corporate job, but he found his purpose, which was to help all these fellow veterans. He was a Marine. He
Mhm.
did these veteran retreats, went from having like 20 people to 100 people, and then multiple weekends, and he was helping people come closer to God. And I think that was his purpose on this planet.
Mhm.
And I think if you think about it that way, everything that he did to become a marketer, even for a beer company, prepped him to be that person who could market and he was an alcoholic, right? And a lot of these guys were recovering, and he was a veteran, and a marketer. All those three things together helped him become this beacon of hope for a lot of people and market and bring these things in that help them.
Mhm.
So your purpose isn't necessarily what is not going to be clear in front of you, but I think your intention to find it is easy to start, right? So like start doing what you think is right, start maintaining yourself and treating others nicely, and then you gotta go explore and figure out exactly what it is that you like. Arguably, I think my purpose, I feel like I'm going to try to use AI the right way. I think there's a lot of people who are going to use it the wrong way. But I do think it's one of these things where too many people are using it the wrong way. And we're just, some of us are just kind of like, oh, it's going to stray off into its path where I think it can be just like anything else and a tool to help us and grow and be creative and create jobs and change lives just like any of the other tools mankind has made through generations, right? And I want to be one of those people on that good side. And I think I have the capability of it. Why do I have the capability of it? Because I have this niche that I've been working in for 10 years in e-com, which I don't think people are building. And I'm an engineer by trade, an IT guy by trade that I learned. So I'm like circle back the thing we went down to Mexico and my wife was like, she was sleeping because mom of two girls, on five and under. I was like, absolutely, I
Yeah.
told we bought it was just like it was actually really nice. I think I told you about it. It was like 3 days. And I was like, oh, it's so short. But all we did was like stay in this cabana on the beach and just listen to the waves. And those
Yeah.
3 days, I felt like we were there for like 2 weeks. It was like time hacking or something. But she was sleeping and I was working, and she's like, "Oh, you have a problem working?" I'm like, "No, because I'm like in the zone. I'm like creating again, and I hadn't created like that with code and stuff like that. I hadn't created like that in 10 years. I'm like, I'm back into line with what I think I can do, and what maybe I'm here for. And so, if you don't know what it is, just start on the path that maybe is going to get you there. And if it's wrong, so what? And just try. But I think if you're trying, you will eventually find it. It's one of those things. Like again, you don't know. You don't. I don't know. I don't. You know what? I don't want a Lamborghini like Andy's got. You know why? Because I can't fit in the damn thing. You know how I know how I can't fit in them? Because I
Right.
go and I sat in one, and I was like this. I'm like, I don't know for this much money. So it's not what I wanted. But if I
Right.
had spent my time working towards that versus like understanding, I want to go to Isla Mujeres and have a beach where I can take my girls and be nice and fun. Because I experienced that. Now I have something to work for. I think the purpose is the same way. You only find it by exploring it, but you can set those intents to find it from get-go, right? From where you are right now. And I think if
I
people
love
work
that.
towards that, that'll help quite a bit.
Second question, what's a favorite quote and why?
Mm. Um, well, I don't know if it's not necessarily a quote, but there's a picture right here that I hang up in front of me so I can see it every day. And somebody helped me take this and pivot it to the right way. So it says self-made on it. I think self-made, in a large sense, is if you think about it like the surface level, oh, I'm self-made. I think that that ignores, obviously it's wrong because nobody's self-made. But I heard somebody tell me that you have the opportunity to be self-made by the others that are around you that you should be grateful for. So that when I look at that, I remember that person. I can't, I mean, to be honest with you, I think I just read it on the internet and then I bought this. But like I have an opportunity from because of my, like I said, like my Armenian ancestry coming over here with nothing. My dad's side and the entrepreneurs on both sides. My dad maybe not, maybe he wanted to be an entrepreneur, but he did this job and it provided for, and they busted their butt and put four kids through private education here in St. Louis so that we could have this opportunity. And so I'm trying to be, I have this opportunity to be an entrepreneur, which people think is self-made, right? But in reality, that's self-made. Yes, I should embrace that I can do this on my own or with, as an entrepreneur, you put it on your shoulders and a lot of it's on your back. But I have this opportunity because of the people around me and before me, right? So I try to bring that in and look for opportunities to be grateful for the people that have helped me along the way. My wife's parents, my wife, obviously, the people, my friends, the mentors that I've had along the way, obviously my parents and things like that. And I think I think if people look through it, that you have this great, it comes down to opportunity. Like you have this amazing opportunity to, regardless of Mexico, Canada, United States, we have so much opportunity in this world, but people and arguably myself up to a point wasted it. And you can't waste it anymore. You have the opportunity to be self-made through the actions of the people who allowed it and they gave you that opportunity. So, yeah, that's why it's in front of me right there.
Love it. Third question. What's one word or sentence you want on your gravestone?
I'd have to go father, husband, man of God. Yeah.
Cool.
And it's not a hierarchy, as most supposed to be confused of, but I think that the last one's the most important. But I want to be known. I don't care about the businesses and everything ultimately. I think that those are the three, the most important things.
That's good. All right. You run into someone in a coffee shop and they listened to this and gave them some perspective, hopefully, doing 75 hard, all the things we chatted about. What's something we didn't talk on that you think would be really impactful to leave our listeners with?
I think I'll probably have to say something with the AI stuff, right? If I learned one thing with being in AI every day for a better part of 2.5 years now and building in one way or the other, I will say it's one of those things that are going to be confusing for most people for a very long time. Social media was the same way. One of my first failed businesses was creating Facebook pages for local businesses here because it just was a mystery box for people, right? So I see that AI is a large part. It's this big, daunting thing that will confuse lots of people. But I think if you calm down and you look at it as, look, this is a massive opportunity for you. A lot of people are afraid of getting their jobs taken away, and it's very real. But I think what you should look at as an opportunity is how could I use AI, even if it's ChatGPT, right, to automate or improve upon that mundane work that we all do. And I'm very big on that because I think the true winners of any job or business going forward will be AI plus humans. I say that a lot. AI plus humans equals superpowers. So in your current role, if you want to be secure in your job and you want to embrace the future and you want to live through this change or even up your value, right? Because if you're one of the people that actually learn this thing in your role, you will increase the value to the business who also has that problem of not knowing what it is. Look at how you can take and optimize that mundane work that we all, the paper shuffling stuff, because there's probably 20% of your job of anybody, my job included, that is super valuable to whoever, your business or to your employer or whatever. And if you can automate that 80 to focus more on that 20 and then spend that rest of that time that you just freed up on that creativity work, those things that AI can't do, you will instantly become more valuable to that person. You might be actually open up an opportunity for where you're to run your own company, right? Or something like that. And I share that because I've done that with my own team internally to build this tool because this tool worked internally for us first before we brought it out. And it was very scary to the team that I had worked with for 10 years. They thought everybody was going to lose their job. In fact, what I did was automate most of their work, that mundane paper shuffling, data entry stuff that AI can handle. And so they could focus on the creativity part. And now they're more, they're having more involvement into the company's future. They're embracing their original, like my designers. I was telling Andy this. It was like my designer didn't come into designing to make me ads. He came in to create and to embrace that creativity in himself. And so what I did was I took 80% of his job out of the play where he was making ads, and now 20% of his time, that 20% is now 100% where he gets to create and he gets to embrace his creativity and this human nature that frankly AI can't automate. So and he became more valuable to the business. He also is having more enjoyment in his own role. I think that's the true nature of what we could use this tool for that most people aren't doing. And I challenge everybody who's listening to this to look at, even if you're not paid for it, how can you add value to your business by embracing this thing that's not going away? The train's out of station. It's not, it's only going forward with or without us. And I want to be on that train and helping people come onto that train, which is look at that mundane work, the data entry, the things that you take up probably most of your time, do a time audit, as Dan Martell will say, and then see if you can do this effectively. Don't just outsource it, but do it effectively so that your time is spent on high value tasks, that 20%, that both give you more enjoyment and also provide more value to the company. And I think your future, again, your opportunity is more secure going forward. Um, and you probably find something more, maybe even closer to your purpose, like we were just talking about, because I think I can go on a whole tangent about this, but I think one of the things that's bad about the technology up to this point is it took away our ability to spend time on like we're doom scrolling on social media, we're
Mm.
shuffling paperwork, we're data entering into Excel. Nobody like is on this planet to data entry into Excel, right? So our technology has brought us into this purpose. So if we could get that out of the way, what could we create going forward? And I think there's an opportunity for everybody listening to this or watching this to create something and find a purpose that they've never even thought they were possible of. If we embrace what's going to happen one way or the other, which is the AI revolution. So that would be what I would say.
Cool. I love that. Guys, I'm sure you want to share this incredible story. Some ways to have a successful life, whatever that means for you, whether that's family or whether that's business. But a good thing that I got out of this is like, what does that mean to you? And really focusing in on that, even before something tragic starts to happen that makes you renegotiate what you're actually focused on.
Mhm.
But yeah, let's go out there, guys. Let's share it. If we can help change one life or one starfish at a time, together, we can help change the world. Thanks for being on, Matt.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time, Angela. It's always a pleasure to see you. Enjoy those waves.